All right. All right. Anybody in the waiting room still there, Marissa, at all?
Nope.
All right, we're gonna give one more minute here. Let me change my view gallery there. Perfect. Seem a little light, Laura. Oopsie. All right, gang, we're gonna give one more minute for people to pop in here, and then we're gonna get rolling just in respect of everyone's time here. So just give me one more minute to let anyone else hop in that is attending today. All right. All right. The time is 12:02, and we are going to get going here for our boys section managers meeting. As you know, it's coming down the pipe, and we are almost right into tournament season again. It's hard to believe that we're rolling. So I'm going to run off of our agenda, and our agenda aligns with our slides here that we're going to go through. And so I'm going to first introduce myself as Phil Archer. The associate director that works with boys and girls swimming here at the Minnesota State High School League, and I'm going to make a couple other introductions of our folks that are going to be speaking today about our section meet process, and then moving into our state meet. So we've got a new face that we're excited to have here at the MSHSL, who's helping us with boys swimming and diving. We've got Marissa Anitzberger, who is new to the league as of about a month or two ago, and so this is her first section managers meeting, so don't be too rough on her as we're rolling through the slides and taking care of little things here. So just wanted everyone to be able to put a face with the name of the support staff who is rolling with us on boys swimming and diving this year. So with that, let's hop right into our agenda. I want to first thank Marissa for getting all the information and the different documents out for everyone. So just working right off of our agenda here, and we're gonna roll right down. So first thing starting, we've got our contact information. So just as a point of note here for all of our region secretaries and section managers is that we want to make sure that we've got, using your dashboard, we've got updated contact information for, region secretaries isn't changing a whole ton, but your meet managers, your section managers might change depending upon the season and things along those lines. So make sure on your dashboard that we've got the correct information. And really, what it really comes down to is having a weekend cell, a night and weekend cell that's applicable in there in case we've got to get a hold of anyone for that. So make sure that it's just not like a school number that is going to pop in there, and we won't be able to get a hold of anyone, or it'll be challenging to get a hold of. So we want to make sure that information is a night and weekend cell that we can get a hold of. Next thing is myself down there. I've got my email along with office and direct lines, and then we've got Marissa's with office and direct lines. And then Chris Arseth, who was our tournament manager, and Chris is on the call today, and he will be chiming in whenever I forget or misspeak or something like that. Chris is always the person that corrects me. Thank God he knows what he's talking about on the swimming and diving world, as I'm still relatively new to it. The girls' meet went off without a hitch for the most part, and I think that's largely due to Chris and our support staff. But Chris is always a great resource, as he knows just about everything swimming and diving. So I'm going to hop into a little bit of the documents that we have before I turn Laura McIntoon and Tim Layton loose on you, two league employees that are greatly involved with our functionability and ability to run our meets. So number 2 on our agenda is a lot of the documents that were sent out by Marissa yesterday, including this agenda, but we've got our section manager's guide along with this PowerPoint that are in there. And then in the section manager's guide, it's pretty straightforward at this point. Many of you have seen that either at the girls or very similar to the boys last year. And there's just guidelines on the state meet, timing procedures, dealing with ties and different things like that. Swim standards are in there. And I think a big piece of those section managers guides are the deadlines and the dates, knowing the times that we've got to get stuff submitted. So and then as I mentioned, the PowerPoint. So the swimming and diving rules and policies and links for the NFH's rules are all in there as well. And then emergency protocol, transfer of care, and our COVID guidelines, as that's still hanging around, and the COVID guidelines have not changed. We're still operating off of the 0 to 5 day, not participating, and day 6 and beyond, you're okay. But that's in there. You guys can dig further into that if you've got any questions on that. Documentation on fall starts and dive off, and then the additional medal order form were all in those documents that were sent out by Marissa yesterday. So Marissa, go ahead and let's move on to our next slide here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Laura to talk a little bit about operating the website and making sure that we're getting everyone entered and we're able to navigate the website. So Laura, if you wouldn't mind popping in here and taking it away.
Great, thanks, Phil, and good afternoon, everyone. Just want to share some resources with you to make sure you have access to what you need, but then also share some information with you about how you can provide information for others. So Phil addressed having current information on the website for you. If you look at the tournament personnel dashboard here, underneath where it says edit your profile, that's where you can go in and add phone numbers. We do have a spot for 2 phone numbers. One is a public one. And if your phone number shows up anywhere on the website for non-logged in users, that's the one that shows up. We also have a spot for you to add a personal and/or cell number. That number is only seen by those with a login to the website. So we really encourage you to add that information there, as that helps our staff as well as region secretaries and other tournament personnel contact you in some of those off times. So first thing, make sure that you have a tournament personnel dashboard. If you are an AD and you go way down to the bottom in the blue footer, you'll be able to toggle between your dashboards. If you are only a tournament personnel, you should see that dashboard when you log in to the MSHSL website. If you do not have a tournament personnel dashboard, please reach out to info@mshsl.org and we will get you set up. If you have a tournament personnel dashboard, but you're not seeing your swimming section on that dashboard, please work with your region secretary and he or she can connect that to your dashboard. So first of all, make sure that you have access to that and you can see your swimming section on that dashboard. Marissa, if you'd go ahead a slide. Once you get to that dashboard, you're going to find a section that's called Section Tournament Management Resources. Underneath there, you see the 3 seasons. We are in winter. When you click into that winter tournament management documents, you're going to be presented with a list of winter activities that the State High School League runs. One of those is swimming and diving. That swimming and diving folder is where Marissa, Phil, and others are putting the resources that assist you in running your tournament. These are not resources that coaches or ADs see, but they're the ones that help you run your tournament. So really, it's a small group of folks that see this. You may see these same documents coming to you via email, but when you're trying to find all of them in one place, this is that place that Marissa and others will add those. After today, this presentation from today, both the recording as well as the slides, they'll get dropped into that swimming and diving folder under the winter tournament management documents. Also on your dashboard, you'll see a website help guide. Behind that button, you'll see a one-pager for many of the different things that you as a tournament personnel person do on the dashboard. Just a note, if you are also an AD, you see this very same button on your AD dashboard. There are different resources behind each one of those depending on what your role is. So when you're looking for a how-to sheet, that is behind this website help guide. If you go ahead again, please. Also on your dashboard, you're going to find two directories. This is where you can find and then pull downloads of coaches and/or ADs in your section. This is information that is entered by those coaches and those ADs. If you ever, unfortunately, find inaccurate information here, please work back with us or with the AD at that school, because sometimes you're our best person to help us make sure that we have accurate information that school has updated. But please use these buttons to find that access. You can go page by page out on the public side of the website, but here you'll find some tools that will help you find that information much more quickly. Also, moving into tasks that you will complete on the website. And again, you'll see these slides that have directions on them. There are really 3 tasks that we ask you and/or your region secretary to complete on the website. The first one is adding section event information. And Marissa, if you move ahead a slide, you'll see the directions for that. Many of you, your region secretary may have already done this. This is information that populates to a number of places on the website for the public, for schools, into various lists. This is added sorry, Marissa. For many of our region secretaries, they jumped in as early as this summer and started to add this information. So circling back to them and/or double checking to make sure it's accurate. You want to get that information in there about when and where your tournament is. Secondly, information for participants. So again, this may be information that you emailed or 15 years ago dropped in the real mail to go out to your schools. This information can now live right next to all of the other swimming information on ADs and coaches' dashboards. So you'll see my example there is actually a volleyball girls 2A. All of our coaches and ADs see a section like this for boys swimming if they have a boys swimming team. The left and the right sides of that, our state high school league staff adds resources into those two sides with all of the things that someone would need to compete and run a swimming program. You can add into that middle section information that is appropriate to your section, things that you want your coaches or your ADs to have access to. That might be a schedule for the day. It might be information about the community they're going to. It might be information about bus parking, any of those general resources that you would send out to your coaches and ADs. We'd ask that you post them here. So again, that coach or AD comes to one spot and they see everything connected to boys swimming. And then finally, number 3, we ask that you post information for the general public. The public wants to know where your tournament is at, and they want to know the results of it. That information gets added through the directions that you can find here underneath section events. And once that's added, that shows up for the public on the public's side of the website. We'd ask that you add now something that gives a schedule. It may be the same thing that you post for your schools, or it might be a very simplified version of that. Tickets will cost this much, the meet will start at this time, diving will happen at a given time. whatever that might be. It's probably kind of a one pager that gives that schedule for your tournament that the public would use. And then after your tournament is over, we'd ask that you replace that schedule with results. And for swimming, for most of you, that's a PDF that you get out of your scoring and timing system that you then add to the website to provide those results for the public. And again, you've got directions for each of those underneath that website help guide. With that, I think I'm turning this to Tim Layton to talk a little bit about media attendance at section events.
Very good. Thank you, Laura. And thanks to all of you for joining in this very important meeting. What an exciting time of year as we begin planning for these postseason events. I'm here to visit with you today about media, and media, as you know, is all around us. It comes in many different forms. In the traditional media, the new age media, and also we're streaming. So anyway, so many things to think about when it comes to the media pieces. This slide indicates some of the resources that you have at your disposal. Jumping down to the media page tools, there are information there that indicates in your media policy manual. If you have any questions or concerns there, there's an approved media list that I will segue into in a few moments. But also the key is just to work with your region secretaries on all requests, as well as the league. And to do that on the league's website, it's very important to consult the approved media list that can be found on the media page on the high school league's website. The media organizations that you will see on there have all been approved and vetted by the league. That becomes a very valuable resource to you as an administrator to ensure that each and every media member that attends your events has been approved, vetted, and okayed for coverage. We all enjoy the media coverage as they share the journeys and the stories of our member schools, but we really want to be diligent about making sure the proper media members are there. That approved media list is a valuable resource, as well as me. Call the league if you have any questions or concerns if you don't see a particular media member on there. Moving on to actual on-site management of your events. It's important beforehand to determine a designated photo zone. When you shoot swimming, it's a great event to cover photo wise, but we want to make sure that the media have access, but at the same time, they are not disrupting the flow of meet management. So the league encourages you to designate photo areas that are going to be away from any of the participants, but yet also be able to capture that great shot. The same is true with media zones post-race. You want to be able to look at an area around your pool that might be accessible, a good spot to have post-race interviews where a reporter can go and interview a participant or a coach following either that event or the entire meet. Finally, the last thing I'd like to share with you is a note on streaming. Streaming, we know, is all around us, and it's here. We want to make sure that the appropriate streamers are on site. Any streaming entity has to be approved by not only the region secretary, but also the league. And the guidance there is a streaming entity must request concurrently with the league and the region committee their request, and then together the league and the region secretary make a determination on that. I'll be listening in for the remainder of this meeting if you have any other questions or concerns. With that, thank you for all you do in providing opportunities for students. Thank you.
Laura, Tim, thanks for hopping in here and explaining areas that you're both working in for us with the section and state tournaments. Just a quick comment on the media piece, just to echo a little bit on what Tim was talking about. The standard that's set through the section tournament starts to carry into the state tournament. And so, working within the guidelines of the MSHSL that Tim has worked on to set up, and setting that expectation for the media out of the gate is very, very helpful when it comes down to our state venue at the University of Minnesota, and letting the media folks know what's expected, and that we're going to hold to the rules and guidelines, I'd say, that we are setting in place. So any help that you can do, or anything that you can do that allows us to operate within those guidelines and rules, is really helpful at the state tournament level. So again, Laura, Tim, thank you for being here, and I appreciate you hanging out with us if there are any questions at the end. So now I'm going to hop into a little bit of meet management along with Chris Arseth whenever he feels the need to chime in on some things. So as we're kind of moving down our agenda here, we're talking about section tournament management and the assigning of site managers for all sites at all levels. So whenever possible, that site manager should not be a member of the coaching staff or any school participating at the event. And I'd just like to throw a reminder out there that if they are delegating this out to a site manager, that they need to know the rules and be in communication in the flow of information of all that we're talking about today. And so that's providing them documents like the site manager's guide, making sure they have access to the swim and dive policies of the MSHSL. And what I recommend is having an NFHS rule book at all sites. So emergency protocols, emergency action plans, and that includes some of the things that we've sent over to you in dealing with COVID and the process with that, and then obviously the transfer of care. Go ahead, Marissa. I apologize, Chris. Was there anything that you want to drop in on that?
Nope, I totally agree that section meet managers guide should be really perused through and shared with site managers.
Agreed. Awesome. All right. When we talk about chain of contact and communication here, site manager to tournament manager to region secretary, and then it would come into myself and Chris Arseth in any questions, needs, concerns, or anything that will pop up. So we really want to empower you to be able to handle those, handle any issues or questions, concerns needed with your region staff that you guys are putting in place for the meets. But there's always support there. And if there's something there that I can't answer directly, just because of a limited background on swim, I've got Chris Arseth and Jim Marshall that are right there to help make a determination or figure out how to best move with that. So then next, go ahead, Marissa. We're talking about consistency, right? And if we're talking about reviewing the section manager's guide, review of materials and all those things, these are all provided so that we can create as much consistency as possible throughout the section meet process and heading into state. So again, this is everything from sharing today's agenda along with the other MSHSL documents that Marissa sent out yesterday, all the way down to the emergency action plans and transfer of care piece. So just really be in good communication with your staff and discussing the key points that we're hitting on here today, or as you're going ahead and looking through the section manager's guide or the meet manager's guide, any key points that pop out in your head as well, make sure that your staff is on the same page with you as that. And so Marissa kind of moved into the emergency protocols and transfer of care, which we were talking about, just making sure everyone is on the same page. We can go ahead, Marissa. Oh, let me move forward my agenda. Sorry here. Okay, so now we're talking about communication to the team. So official coaches, I'm gonna go there first. Each school can have 3 on deck, and the schools must be school approved, making sure that state law and the legal policy that comes around with the coach's dashboard and all the other aspects of qualifying as a head coach. And then we would recommend, or not recommend, there are no last minute coaching additions at that level. So verifying participation in the section tournament, reminding coaches of the deadlines there, and checking the high-tech information as well. Oh, there it goes right there. And then Chris, could you chat on the high-tech info and what we talked about a little bit about the names going
Sure.
in?
You want to make sure that in your section meet backup that you're going to send to us, your database, that there are it is just very direct to the school name. For example, I'll just take Rochester Century, for example. We don't need it to say Boys Rochester Century 2022-2023. We just need for it to say Rochester Century, and to make sure that that is all accurate. That's one thing that we have to really go through and proofread before we put all that information out for the state meet. And as accurate as we get it from the sections, it streamline our process to get it to the printer and get it out and published out on the web for the public. The other thing is we also want to make sure that you have the right acronyms, and those acronyms can be found on the league website. They're high-tech abbreviation codes. We will be using the University of Minnesota streaming service for the meet again this year, just like we did with the girls. And the list that we give them, we want it to really match up with what everybody is giving us. And we don't want to have any, mishaps where maybe a school is labeled wrong, because what they do is they pull all of the visuals as far as the mascots and things like that based upon those acronyms that come across. They're not as vested as all of us are, or as intricately intimate with knowing all of the school names and mascots and things like that. So they're really putting a lot of stuff together in a short period of time. So if we can do all that and get that information accurately from the section, that really helps us on our end and helps streamline the whole entire process, so that we can really put the event out that we want for the athletes and for the spectators and quite frankly, the general public and everyone else. So.
Perfect. Thanks, Chris. I'm going to jump up real quick, Marissa. You can just pause right there, but I'm going to jump up, though we didn't touch on the certified roster. Again, this is another point that helps them out when it comes to state time. Those are the only people that will be allowed on deck. So getting them used to getting that roster in and getting that entered at the section level on the section entry form is a big piece as well. So let's go ahead and where are we at here? Reporting of results. All right, so as we drop down into awards, so awards for section, first through eighth place finishers will receive medals, and championship and second place teams will get trophies. So trophies and medals will be shipped directly to the section meet manager or region secretary. Just a note, because we did have an issue in another sport, not in swimming, but to inspect it and check your trophies and make sure that the correct information is on there and that they are to a high standard as far as their appearance. So, Chris, do you have anything that you want to toss in on awards?
No, I would just say, make sure that I know a lot of us go to facilities that are not necessarily directly connected with the school. So please make sure that you have those awards available when it is the championship night. I've heard of horror stories where people have gotten the awards maybe delivered to school or their house, and they've gone to the pool and they have not had those available for them. So they've had to track down teams after the fact. And, like I said earlier with the names and things, we want to put on the best showcase for the athletes and the kids. So I have all that stuff available.
Perfect. Before we move on to advancement with state, I just wanted to two key points in our agenda that I will pass on to you to dive into a little bit more when we're talking about medical protocols is make sure that you and all of your staff are familiar with the COVID aspect. There was a form that was sent out, as I mentioned earlier, from Marissa with the COVID protocol and how to navigate that. And then also making sure that it requests the transfer of care forms prior to the tournament and distribute to all the site managers of whatever sites that you're operating in. So just wanted a quick touch on that. And then from a general aspect, merchandising. So only region approved merchandise can be sold at section contests, excuse me. And so make sure that if someone's booster club is trying to do this or that, make sure that's going through you and you have a say in that. Again, only region approved merchandise can be sold at section contests. So with that, let's move into our advancement to state, Chris, and I'll let you take the lead on this one.
Sure. So As you can see, first and second place finishers in Class A and for boys, and then first through third in single A boys will be advancing. And then any section qualifiers or finalists that have made the time standards. Those time standards can only be used at section finals. So if someone obtains that time standard in prelims, that does not count for the advancement process. It has to be done in finals. And for boys diving, we are taking the top 4, just like we did with girls. So those will advance. We will take no ties for diving. So if there's a 4th place tie, or if in swimming there's a 2nd place, or in single A 3rd place tie, that tie must be broken. There is a very specific process for diving, and it is in the section meet manager's guide that should be followed to break those ties. With swimming, it's pretty straight up. There'll be a swim off, and that does happen occasionally. If something happens where you're not really familiar with what to do, or if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to either Phil or myself, and we can walk you through that process so that we make sure that we have the right individuals coming to state. Neither of us on our end, or I'm sure your end, would like to tell an individual that they are not advancing to state because the process was not followed. We want to make sure that we have accurate information. Everybody knows what's going on. Everybody knows who is advancing when they leave that facility that evening or in that afternoon. So please look through that section meet manager's guide specifically for the diving. There's a very distinct and direct process that needs to be followed for that.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Chris. So I'm gonna jump around here for just one minute as we're starting to wrap up here and talk about communication with the section champion, head coach, and administrative representative. So the state qualifier materials will be accessed through the league's website. Coach and AD dashboard is where they can find that. And Laura talked a little bit about that earlier in our presentation. We need to remind the head coach to review all the information immediately, as there's a relatively quick turnaround on some of those things, and stress the importance of meeting all information deadlines that are indicated in the material. So the state entry form is due Monday, February 27th by 4 p.m. and the eDive online entry form is due Monday, February 27th at 10 p.m. So those 2 deadlines that they're gonna need to get in, and then the high-tech entry can be done at any point in time. The state qualifiers Zoom meeting will be Monday, February 27th at noon. So this is all in the agenda that you can share this information with your section champion head coach. And then this will be obviously accessible for you to review and share with them, so you have that as we move forward. So I am going to stay on here. Laura and Tim and Chris are going to stay on here for a little bit to answer any questions. We've got a relatively smaller group here, so we can let people on mute if they have a specific question or anything.
So can I mention one thing really quick here?
Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
Rebuttal and we wrap up here.
Yep.
One thing that was rather alarming during the girls' season is how many coaches had not been onto the dashboard. And you want to remind all your coaches, all of this information is available to them there. They should not have any trouble finding all of that, everything that we've talked about here today, and all of the information for deadlines and things like that. One of the things that we kind of discovered was there were quite a few coaches that either A, had not created a login for dashboards, and they had to go through all that information kind of on the fly, really, in a short period of time in order to get everything settled. And that's really not very it wasn't handled in a professional manner for some things. So we want to make sure that all that's taken care of. So the first thing that everybody should go to is automatically to the dashboard. And then if they have questions after the fact, we're more than happy to help them out. But that should be your, information central, where everybody should go and take a peek and find all of the information related to the tournament.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Chris. So you've got my contact information there, the reminder on the Zoom meeting for state qualifiers on that February 27th time. At this point, I'll ask Laura and Tim if there's any information additionally that they would like to add before we open it up for any questions. Tim, Laura? See Laura shaking her head. She's all good. Tim?
No, I think we're
Solid.
good too. Thank you.
Perfect. So with that, we'll officially wrap up, but we will stay on here to take any questions, and I'm gonna check the chat here real quick. All right, good deal. Let me close that out. Oops. All right. Well, thank you all for being here. Thank you, Tim, Laura, Chris, and Marissa, for your work that you put in on putting us in this position to be able to communicate this information out to the regions. With that, this recording will be on the dashboard for you to access if there's any questions or needs coming out of this. But we're excited to get state tournament time going, and this is the first step in the process for all of those teams. So with that, please do not hesitate to reach out to Laura, Tim, myself, or Chris if there are any direct questions that we can help answer and makes the process go smoother for you. And again, we're setting an example stepping into the state tournament with your sections. And so we want to make sure that we're able to do that as uniformly as possible. So with that, I appreciate your time. Thank you for spending this last 36 minutes with us here. And we look forward to getting results and moving forward into the state tournament process. Have a good afternoon. See ya.